Hello, friends. My name is Jeffrey Gruntner, and I am going to talk to you today about some of the energies that are going on with Venus and Mars, and the new moon and the solstice. So, I hope you enjoy what I have to offer. I'm going to just smudge here a little bit or let the sage smoke purify, and with the intention, if you're viewing this, that you can also be centered with that. So anyway, I'm pretty excited about what's going on in the sky. I've been tracking it, taking some photos, posting that a little bit, um, and so that's what I want to talk about. There's lots of layers to this whole thing, but I've decided that for at least for this video, I want to keep it focused on the basics. And even at that, it's going to be, there will be some layers to it. So, so what I want to start with is talking about Venus and Mars and how they are coming together in the sky, and so those energies are expressing together. Uh, and the one of the things that is popular now is going into the explorations of the polarity, of the Venus being associated with feminine and Mars associated with the masculine. And so those explorations are very useful. But if we go too far into one polarity or the other and don't understand how they actually work together, or leave that behind, we can get off into some pretty tall weeds pretty fast. So I thought it would be good for us to just take a look at and explore once again what these energies express. And furthermore, all of the planetary energies live within us. Those archetypal energies, all of them live in everybody, regardless of their gender expression and what kind of body they're in. Those energies live within us, Venus and Mars, what we're talking about today. So let's forget for the moment about what we associating it with men, women, etc., but rather what are these basic energies? And so I thought, even just going back to the notion of, the symbol of Venus is this circle, the circle of spirit, and the cross of matter, of form, something of spirit that wants to come into form. And so the and that by itself is sort of like what we typically associate, classically we associate that with what we love and value, what we want to have in our experience of life. And it's a space where something can take place. So the and Mars is that symbol of spirit, that circle, and an arrow that projects up and out. And so it's that symbol of the spirit and how it wants to, it gives it direction, it gives it a definition, it gives it that activity and expression. So Mars is an action, and Venus invites. Venus is what is, it's the thing that we are drawn to, and Mars is the action to bring it about. So with those ideas in mind, we can explore the notion that creativity is really the combination of both. In order for there to be a something that we value, that we want to bring into the experience, we have to take an action. We have to bring something to it so that there's a conception and something can happen and it can come into this world. So the two work together, back and forth. And so one example of this, that was where we can see a kind of creation and an interaction, is Venus might think, or have the conception of, wouldn't it be lovely to have a flower garden? And Mars goes, yes. So gets busy out there and digs the soil and plants the seeds and pulls those weeds and puts up the fence to keep the deer and the bunnies from eating the plants down. And Venus makes sure that all the nutrients are there, and so that it can grow strong, so it's got the nutrients in the water, and probably might talk to the plant so it knows that it's loved, so it wants to grow strong, and or put on some music of Bach so that the plants have this lovely environment to grow into. So you see, it's Venus and Mars and Venus. And another example is I belong to this wonderful group that is, that where we sing. And so singing is a perfect example, because there is a song that wants to come into being, Venus, and then there is the action of using the voice and creating a vibration and putting it out into the world. And then there is that beauty is expressed, and then Venus hears it. So we've sung the song, and then the receptive part is the hearing. Can we receive it? And then you've got this Venus and Mars action going on inside of you to experience that love and light together, the creation that comes together out of these two things. So those are some of the like basic things to remember about Venus and Mars. And to just carry that idea a little bit further, our senses are connected to receptors, and they want to have this experience. So the receptors and the senses are typically associated with a Venus function, with the sign of Taurus. Has to do with the senses. It's what we want to receive, and there's many layers to that, so I'll leave it at that. Mars is the stimulation. That's the touch. That is the to feel a touch, to taste deliciousness, to see beauty, to hear the bird song behind me, or whatever that, all these different ways. So Mars is the stimulation, Venus is the reception of it. And so if we understand that the way these two energies work together, what we love and value and want to experience, and then expressing it, giving it action, giving it energy, putting it out there in Mars, and then we bring something into the world. We create experience. We create life. So I wanted to give you that to remind us of how these two archetypal energies work together within all of us. So anytime we're creating, regardless of man, woman, gender expression, we're using these two energies together. And that's a very important thing to remember. So Venus and Mars are coming together in the sign expression of Leo. And what Leo represents is being able to shine our source light from our own sovereign realm, our source light from our own sovereign realm, with this into the world with this creative and generous expression. So I stumbled over that a little bit, but it is the sense of the source of light and love, our light love being shown into the world from our own sovereign realm. So there's a lot in that. And in some respects, Leo calls us to have radical self-love. And when we are in radical self-love, and then we have the realm, whether it's whomever we are, we have the realm that is us, and when we open to the source light and love shining through us as our individual creation. So those are some aspects of Leo energy. And the way we creatively show ourselves in the world and express in that way. So we have Venus and Mars, who are quintessentially about, what we love and value and how we're going to act on those to bring it into being, happening in this sign expression of Leo, of coming from our own sovereign realm and expressing our love light into the world for all to experience. So that's what's going on. And they hang out together for a long time, these two planets in this part of the world, part of the zodiac, and that type of a sign expression. Now, so that immediately suggests to us about being open to, receiving, well, what is it that we love and value? What is it that we want to experience? What do we want to bring into the world? And then the notion of to take action on it. Create a plan, create a way to take it out into the world and allow those things to blend and work together and expressing uniquely who we are. Now, you may not feel like maybe you're not a singer, or maybe you're not a poet or a painter, or you're not a dancer. Dancing, by the way, is another beautiful expression of it because it creates this flow and elegance of Venus. But you have to have a really strong, you don't have to be strong, but you have to set yourself in motion. But a ballet dancer is incredibly strong and flexible and amazing, and then he or she expresses this wondrous beauty. That's Venus and Mars, motion, movement. And that tells us something too about with Mars energy. When Mars energy is activated, it has to flow through us and has to be expressed through action, typically. If it gets stuck, it turns into it can turn into anger or frustration or something else. But it's important with Venus to be receptive to what we want to feel in our hearts, and then using Mars to activate it and put it out there. So now let's come to the idea that these are coming together around solstice time. Well, with the solstice, it literally means sun standing still. It's one of those points where there is the shifting from, here in the northern hemisphere, about the increasing light and the sun reaching kind of the highest point in the sky at noon, and the furthest to the north and to the in terms of its rising and setting, and then stays there for a while. It is still, but it's a liminal space where there is a shift in direction. Anytime there is a shift from one direction to the other, from one quadrant to another, that is a time when we can, in fact, change direction. Within that liminal space is an opportunity to really, literally shift dimensional realities. Now, so we have this opportunity to do this creation, Venus and Mars together, and shining it forth in this unique way. And it's happening at solstice time. Now we bring in the factor of the moon, because even though the two planets aren't exactly conjunct, they're within a very close proximity, and so the energies are blending, these possibilities are coming together. It's the moon at the solstice time that activates it. So one of the things that the moon does is it's a transducer that brings those planetary energies down and into us. We experience it in the subconscious mind. We experience it instinctually. We experience it emotionally. but it helps to embody it. So when the moon is it'll be with Venus first, we're open to what we, that's the time to be quiet and receptive, to be open to what wants to come into form, what wants to come from our values and our love, to come into form. And then it comes along to Mars and activates that. So it brings Mars energy in, and then is the time to let it come through and be active. Now, first of all, when with the moon will be with Mars, it might not happen at a time when you can, in fact, be active, but if you take it in and then intend to express it actively, that is a good and useful way to use those energies together. And again, I want to remind you that this is not about, our classical sense of being a creative person, the dancer, the painter, etc. But we use our creativity in everything that we do. When we arrange a room in our house, we have an idea of what we'd like it to be and how it will express beauty and elegance and flow. Venus. And then we move the stuff around and we nail up the painting and whatever. Mars. We're doing that kind of thing all the time, even making the drawing of that. So there's lots of different ways for that thing to express. But we have this unique opportunity at this solstice time. And, the new moon is just a couple days away. I'm recording this on the 15th of June. The new moon is on Saturday, opposite the galactic center. But those are layers that I don't want to go into right now. What we're in right now is, at this time, if you get to see this early enough, we're in the balsamic moon phase. So if we pick up from the notion that the moon is beginning to lose light, it's just getting ready to be conjunct with the sun again for a new conception. So it's stripping away or leaving behind the parts of the previous cycle that it no longer needs. It's condensing and distilling into essence so that can be brought forward into a new seed. So let's use that metaphorically, because you might want to prepare to do ceremony around solstice, is to allow things to let go. We say that over and over again. Let go, it doesn't serve you. But it is true and valuable. It's especially valuable in this time when we can note something that doesn't need to be part of the next incarnation. So it's really given us a great opportunity. And then just a few days later, we experience the exact solstice. We're already in solstice time, I would suggest, but we experience that exact. And then for us here in North America, that night we'll see the moon with Venus, and then later overnight, the moon will be with Mars. So as one way that one can engage with it is, first of all, I want to suggest that don't try to, you can do whatever you want with it. I'm just offering you information. These are some principles. But I would suggest be aware that we may not know, if we're really open to all possibilities, what that conception is. You might, in fact, know exactly. Maybe you wake up and you got a tremendous song, or that song has already arrived because it's coming early to you, or whatever, because you're in the flow of the energy. But to let go of expectations, when a conception happens, as we know, we don't know what will happen. In human conception, we don't know who that child will be. And so to be open to the possibilities, but rather to let the energy flow into us. The lunar conjunctions are the times when we can absorb it into our soul and into our subconscious. We can allow the energy to embody in us. And then over time, the creational energy that was activated can unfold. And again, these things are going to be going on for a little while, but this is the timing that is ideal. And incorporate into, I suggest you incorporate into your ceremonies, an acknowledgement of a turning, which is the solstice, but also that we want to bring more love, more beauty into the world and into our relations, and that we need to take action on it so that it has energy and it has direction and definition, and there is a creation. So there are many other layers to this that I don't want to go into right now. I wanted to give this as a to give you basics, and I hope to produce a couple of other videos because of these other layers are pretty awesome too. But just to contemplate that, allowing yourself to live from in this creative space from your own sovereign realm, and to receive these energies into your being and see what happens. So with that, I'm going to say Natakios, and until next time.